Shook. Back at you. Back at you. Can I see myself again? It's all good. Back at you. This is another day, and we thank God for another day of Shield. I got something good for you today. Every Wednesday, 5:30, baby, is something real under the shield happening. And I'm so appreciative that y'all able to join. So what we're gonna do is do a few introductions right now. I want y'all to meet young Roman. This Rome. Rome, say hi to the people.
What's going on, good people? Hope all is well. We got a good topic tonight. Let's go.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And guess what? I was in Chicago over the weekend. Oh, go Bears! I was in Chicago over the weekend, and I had a chance to talk to a lot of family. And hey, man, they was like, "What's up with King Lemuel?" So let's bring King Lemuel on here, man.
I'm back. I'm back. For all those who miss me, I'm back. And you know what? We gonna make it do what it do. Here we
Hey,
go. Back at you, Los.
hey, make sure you park safely, sir, because we want to promote healthy driving and safe driving. We see you got your seatbelt on, but get somewhere parked. We know you on that 405. And guess what? We got a special guest is just popping in just to say hello. She missed us. We got Sweet and Low.
Hey, don't call it a comeback. I'm here.
That's sweet along with the people. I don't think this would have been a good subject matter without having a female help. So I'm really, really appreciative of Lo being here with us and being able to share some of that good knowledge. And we named her Sweet and Low for a reason. So guess what? Let's get at it. But what I want y'all to do before we get started, I want everybody to share this. I want everybody to share this with one of your friends, family members, and I want y'all to subscribe to the channel and press like. Right, we want y'all to like. We want to push up these numbers. We want because guess what? We getting real good feedback. And guess what? Hey, guess what, Romy? We got another letter. Believe it or not, we got another letter. And so this topic is about trauma. And before we talk about trauma in the relationships, right? Because this is a very, very sensitive topic, right? Trauma in your relationships. So I want to be able to talk about trauma, but I also want to be able to read this letter. It's a very heartfelt, intense letter. It got a lot of history and trauma in this letter, right? But before we even read the letter, right, let's just talk about trauma in general, right? Just understand as a man and as a woman, you bring trauma to your relationship. And I was in a barbershop and we was talking about it. Like, I'm gonna ask King Lemuel this first, right? Lem, do you think everybody experiences some level of trauma? Everybody? What's your thoughts?
So from the time we're born, we come into this world. We're exposed to elements that's outside of the control of the people who love us, i.e., our parents, our families. You go to school, you deal with you're exposed to certain behavior. You go to work, you're exposed to certain behavior. You're in a relationship, you're exposed to certain behavior. Now, the key is, and this is very important, we have to identify what the trauma we bring and the trauma that others bring upon us that we share, which they call codependency or a form of trauma bonding. But yes, everybody at some point in time has experienced something. And it doesn't mean that you have to be, that we always think about the majors, RE grape or molestation or something. It doesn't have to be that major. It could be something that's just you learn how to lie and you good at it. And you bring that to the relationship, right? Or you
Yes.
have poor right. So is another so yes, everybody does. The answer to the question, yes. The answer is yes.
Hey, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Come on in here, Romy. So before we get this letter popping, tell us your idea. Okay, so we from King Lemuel, and I agree, everybody deal with some sense of trauma and just period, just trauma in general. So tell me the difference in your perspective between a man and a woman trauma.
Man, so we putting it with genders. Okay. So first, before we kick it off with that, let me say this. Um, I found this on Google. It says relationship trauma can occur in any type of intimate relationship, including romantic, family, or professional relationships, and can result from emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. So when you look at it from that aspect, I think both men and women can be affected by trauma. sometimes trauma can be just growing up in the hood. You know, when you grow up in the inner city, me being from Detroit, you being from Chicago, Lim being in LA, there's a lot of things that you have to deal with just going to school. You had in the late '80s, you had crack era came about, so you had the dope dealers out there and the crack addicts out there. So just going to school to and fro, whether you was on a school bus or walking, that was traumatic for certain people. So I think that affected both boys and girls and men and women, because some people was either on either side. They was either the drug fiend or they was the drug dealer. So it affected us in many ways, just going to and from school to see that, because either you seen it directly or indirectly. So I think staying well, like I said, going back to the inner city, I think all of us dealt with a form of trauma, just seeing the things that we seen from day to day, just going to school Monday to Friday.
Okay,
That's my take.
I appreciate it. And let me get Sweet and Low take. So Low, can you tell us trauma only for black people, white people? Can you tell us cultural? Is there a difference between trauma in the different cultures? Do you think everyone experienced a level of trauma? Tell me about that.
Well, I think any human being is going to experience trauma in their life, period. We live in a very imperfect world with imperfect people. And because of that, you're going to experience trauma. Some worse than others, some, like Lim brought out, more serious than others. But we all have to deal with trauma in our life, period.
I love it. I love it. So, hey, short and sweet, right to the point. Okay, look, without further ado, you can take me off the screen and let's hear Low read this letter that we have in. It's an intense one. Trust me, it is. Put them glasses on, Low. Oh,
Shut
Lord.
up. Okay, it's a letter to the inner queen from the young lady. I know that this letter will find you well. I've been reflecting on how you dealt with the trauma in your long 7-year relationship. As a woman, I've experienced certain challenges and traumas that have impacted how I engage in all relationships. I was married before, and my ex husband was 3 years younger than myself. I found myself catering to him and overcompensating for the lack of things around the home, financially, emotionally, and stability. Things didn't work out, and my newer relationship was all I thought I ever wanted. Little did I know, it came with a lot of unnecessary trauma, to say the least. Started with when I was busy and I couldn't answer the phone. When I called back, he wouldn't answer. Then it escalated to show me your plate so I can see that you're on lunch. Things such as that. Then, if you love me, you would get naked and get out of the car. All of these things I would do, thinking that this would one day be my husband. With all of these things that I experienced, he brought on me, I thought this was simply the right thing to do. My breaking point, after all of the sexual and verbal abuse, he kept finding ways to break up with me and coming back. After all of the birthdays, New Year's Eve, and other holiday breakups that left me sobbing, he said he was leaving. This time was different. I took it very seriously and I told him to think long and hard before making this decision. I never looked back. Although he calls me, sends flowers, and messages to me every day to this very day. My experiences are not just about my past, they influence my present feelings, reactions, and interactions. There are moments when I feel vulnerable or triggered by things that may seem minor. I recognize this may be confusing, and I want to emphasize, that my reactions stem from my history and not from my lack of love and trust in certain relationships. I've committed to understanding myself better and fostering a healthier dynamic and with whoever I'm with. Thank you for the patience and support, young lady, as I navigate these feelings to you, lovely queen. I appreciate you and what you will become deeply with love.
Thank you so much, Lo. Thank you so much. Hey, that's a lot to unpack, man. A lot to unveil. And guess what? For the people out there, this is real true stuff. Like I can't make this up. People really, really want to tell you. And with all due fairness, the young lady that wrote this letter, I know that it's a lot of people close to Comfort. If she gets on, you'll be able to know her and exactly who she's talking about. And so for that case, we'll stay anonymous, which is fine, right? But guess what? No, hey, don't fear. The shield is here, baby. So come on in here, Lim. What you got to say about the young lady trauma, all the stuff she went through, all the stuff she had to endure in this relationship? Just to give you a recap. The young lady was married to somebody that was 3 years younger than her previously. It did not work, right? She had a kid about a man, and it did not work. So she actually jumped into a marriage. And then it went to this older guy that seems a little bit more stable. But he was very controlling. And in her perspective, she grew up around the elders or the saints, if you will. And this is a situation where she felt like this is what I got to do to maintain my man. I got to keep him happy. Isn't this what it's supposed to be? I'm supposed to listen and let my man follow the lead because I know that I'm striving to get married. And the final straw was he was, trying to do a breakup this time based on a conversation she had with him. Was like, hey, you don't have to do a lot of stuff, man. I know we got a lot of stuff going on. Just save up for the ring, eventually. And then he blew up. Ring? You ain't gonna tell me when to buy no ring. I'll buy the ring when I feel like it. Matter of fact, I'm out. I'm tired of you saying this. And he tried to do the whole breakup stuff. But this trauma follows you from one relationship to the next. So as she in her new relationship, if she did not find healing, if she did not find sanction, if she did not find the situation to forgive herself, a lot of these past traumas can come up in this new relationship to say, this reminds me of my old relationship and I'm going to shut down. So this is what we're talking about when it comes down to the trauma and the drama for your mama. Come on, Lim.
So I this is good. So I want to change the word trauma just for a little bit so people can kind of bring it to context to dysfunctional behavior. How do when we make dysfunctional behavior our norm and acceptable as we deal from person to person. So there's a wonderful book called Attachment Styles, How You Attach in Your Relationships. And this is a definitely something this young lady would probably need to check out. But a lot of times we have unhealthy attachment styles, and we're getting in relationships because of what we want this person to become, and let's just say trying to find out where this person is going to meet us in terms of being healthy. And sometimes people have no desire for that. So with this particular situation where she was married to a guy who was 3 years younger than her, that could be a telltale sign for a few women. But more importantly than that is he had no desire to meet her at a place of symbiosis or some place of healthy behavior. And this is what happens a lot of times, ladies and gentlemen, is that we're partnering with people who, or most of us haven't. Let me just step back. Most of us haven't done the work that it would take for us to detach from unhealthy behavior before we get to the next relationship. Usually it's easier for us to say, well, it was that person's fault or it was this person's fault. But it's hard for us to say, when we're in a unhealthy situation, I'm here. I have to be responsible, not for just being here, but for what I have latched on to that I'm going to then take with me. Kind of like a carburetor in a car. So the dysfunctional behavior attaches to you, and then you unknowingly, subconsciously take it into the next relationship. And I'll tell you how this happens. For instance, with her, I would be surprised if she was looking for some of the same cues of behavior that her ex gave her. Not all the bad stuff, but what became her norm, that she started to look at the new guy and say, wait a minute. So we do have to be very careful, guys, when we're going from relationship to relationship. But before we even get into relationship, finding out what are our trauma areas, what dysfunctional behavior are we bringing or that we've been exposed to, and we have to address that what we've been exposed to before we then get into a relationship. I'll stop there and let somebody else chime in.
Thank you so much, Lim. Come on in here, Romy.
Hey man, this is a good topic. Excuse me. Let me say this. I would say when it comes to the emotional triggers, is what they call it. You got positive and you have negative emotional triggers. When somebody has been in a traumatic situation, what they would call PTSD, any of those things of that nature, that plays a big factor in how you maneuver into the next relationship. You can either learn from those things and hopefully you go and seek professional counseling because anytime you have emotional and mental abuse, it does a number on you. I've spoken to many people before, and sometimes they'll tell you, at least in a, I shouldn't say at least, but if someone's in a abusive relationship physically, that person can heal from those wounds. But the things that you don't see is when somebody's been mentally abused, when they've been emotionally abused. They say that those scars and those things that can be damaged can be a lot long lasting than the physical scars that you would see. So in that situation, I would recommend and hope that the young lady has went to seek a therapist to heal from those past traumas and to learn from those things because it can leave you with guilt, it can leave you with shame, and I think that with the professional counseling, uh, no matter how many sessions they approve you for, whether it's 8, whether it's 12, at least in those sessions, they will give you the proper resources for you to bounce back and get back to what you would consider normal and your normal self. Because you can't lose yourself when you're dating the wrong individual or wrong individuals if you take the same thing you was doing with person A on to person B because you're just waiting on that person to subconsciously you're waiting on that person to do something similar to the last person, like Lim just touched on. You're looking for things subconsciously that you were seeking in the other person in this new person, and sometimes you can find yourself right back at square one. So I would say definitely, if she hasn't already, definitely seek professional therapy. That's my take for now.
I appreciate it. And she definitely is in therapy. I do know that has been for a while. However, this is traumatic. That's why we're talking about this. Come on, Lo. What you say for the young lady? What do you have to say to the young lady?
Well, first of all, I say I empathize with her. And I believe this is a letter to herself where she talks about the queen that she has become. I think that's beautiful that she's writing it out because that's part of the healing process. One of the things I'll say that is hard is, first of all, we know the scripture talks about that a woman's craving will be for her husband and he will dominate her, right? So we are inclined, as far as how we're built, to cater to the man. I thought it was surprising. She said, I wanted him to be my husband while I was doing all these things. So, what is sad is that one of the things I think women or men need to know that it also says in scripture, love God, love yourself, and then love your neighbor as yourself. We have to work on loving ourselves because if she at the time loved herself enough, she wouldn't have done certain things like, oh, go naked or do this or do that or do that to prove you love me. First of all, who I am, I love myself more than I love you. So those things aren't something I'm going to compromise and do. And you will have the standards in the bar higher. So that's one of the things. I feel sometimes people get stuck in relationships, and it's kind of like that Stockholm syndrome where they're used to that person, they're used to the trauma, and it becomes normal. Or they feel because of, like the gentleman mentioned on the panel, it's something that they have used to, or even being raised seeing, that they feel at home. So they go back to what is comfortable because I feel at home. This is what I'm used to. I know how to deal with it. And they're too scared to, like they say, it's better to deal with the devil you know than the devil you don't know. So that's how they feel that way. Because those red flags should have been addressed or be non-negotiables, and it's time to get out. So I think it's important to know yourself, to work on loving yourself, then you're able to love others and you're able to really open your heart and be vulnerable, and not worried about somebody kicking you in the stomach when you're vulnerable. Because if they do, you can walk and not be so invested. So that's what I feel. I'm glad she's on, it looks like, the road to healing. And once she's healed, then she can again explore love. And that's what we're hoping everyone's willing to do in the end.
I love it. That was very well said. But you know what? I'm ready to rock the boat. Like Aaliyah, I'm ready to rock the boat. Let me say this. Put Low back on the screen. Let me just say this real quick, right? Put Low back up here. So Low, let me ask you this, because see, this is rocking the boat for me. So forget all the perfection stuff, right? We all was young. We all made some dumb decisions, right? That we wish we probably wouldn't have did, right? And so for her, hop on the leg like one dog, a big dog. So she was trying to cater to her man being in church, thinking, because he led her to believe that this was gonna be my wife. So let's just scale it all the way back, Romy. Let's go from the beginning. Let's go from when you was at home and you saw your mama with her man that wasn't her husband, trying to appease him, making his meals before she catered to you, buying him clothes before she bought you school clothes, seeing her being able to pay some on his car before she paid the rent, making sure he had his cigarettes and liquor before she made sure you had your toys. And if you saw this, like Lim say, come on in here. So hold on. If you saw this as a little girl and you always said, I ain't gonna be nothing like that when I get my man, and then you find yourself being subjected right to the same stuff that you've seen. They say at the end of the day that this type of stuff, these are called family curse, right? And so sometimes you have to stop them, but this trauma runs deep. It ain't something you just woke up and you was a wife and or a girlfriend and this just came. You learn. My dad always say this. Shout out to my dad. He said you learn from the things that you suffer. So my thing is, if you going through this and you seeing this indirectly, sometimes this becomes your actual truth. So now that I shook this boat low from the beginning, because what I want to do is, oh girl, she is vulnerable in this situation, right? So seems as though she's vulnerable. I want to kind of relate to her vulnerability. I don't want to come at her like we got it all together in therapy and we know all the answers. I want to try to relate to some of the trauma she dealing with, because guess what? If I asked everybody on the panel first and you said and you agreed that we all had a sense of trauma, we all should be able to agree with my girl or being able to relate to her. So come on in here, Lo, and share some vulnerabilities for her situation, if you will.
Well, I'll say this kind of as far as what you said. I did look at my mom and how she treated my dad. They were together 35 years. We had the same mother and father, 7 kids. I saw her beautiful example. But I think a lot of people don't realize the example you see men, the example they give their daughters, they teach their daughters what kind of men to choose. The example a mom gives the kids, the boys will look for the one like their mom. So it's so important for these men to show their daughters how they expect to be treated when they get in relationships. And a lot of times, because the father's absent, they don't see that. And then they don't know, what to choose, what's right, what's acceptable, what not. Even if they have a man that's negative influence in the home, they're looking at how the woman caters to them, but they're looking like this is what's expected. I know this one girl used to push her man to actually physically hit her because she felt that meant he loved me. If he wasn't jealous,
No, she didn't. That
if he wasn't jealous, he didn't love me. If he wasn't beating on me, he didn't love me, because that's what she saw the father do. So that's what a man does when he loves you. So I think, like Lynn was saying, that example when they're so young is so crucial. It's so vital. Even dealing with hurt and disappointment. If you shield your kids from all the disappointments and hurt, they don't know how to grow up and deal with trauma because they've been shielded all their life. So you have to have them go through some of that. So as far as being vulnerable, some of the mistakes that I made was what I saw growing up and what I thought was acceptable, and that's what you do. And times have changed. What is acceptable back then is not necessarily acceptable now. Just like men, oh, men will be men, they'll play on their women. It shouldn't be that way. And it's not necessarily the acceptable case right now. So that's what I say about that.
We appreciate you, Lo. Where have you been? We appreciate your take. I really, really appreciate it, because we need some femininity. Ain't that what that boy Eric Benet said? We need some of that femininity. And I can feel your energy all the way where I am to this day. And I just want to say we appreciate your take. Mama Lowe's will be
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for inviting me.
very appreciative of how you spoke today. You did a great job. So come on in here, Lim. King Lemuel.
All right, so I'm gonna get personal with myself. I'm gonna tell on myself. So this is indicative kind of the young lady. When a woman does not have a positive male role model in her life, her father, i.e., stepfather, grandfather, then she's going out into the jungle. And her eyes, she's like Stevie Wonder. She don't know what a good man looks like, what a healthy relationship looks like. So she's kind of just going by feel. How does he make me feel today? Right? Is he getting me the reaction that I want, or maybe he's getting me the reaction that I'm used to seeing? But here's my personal story. So I forgot this is a live thing. People can see this. But anyway, here it is.
You
My
already
first
understand.
my first girlfriend got my name tattooed on her.
No, she
And
didn't Lim. No, she did it say King Lemuel? Or did it say
just Livia. So, but now she and I had no idea the long-term ramifications of something like that. So we didn't end up together. She ended up getting married, and that became a point in contention in the marriage. Because she didn't do that for him, she did that for me. And even when and ladies, this is for all ladies, not just for her. Anytime you get a man's name tattooed, you can cover that thing up. But if the brother knows, the new dude knows it's there, he gonna always bring that up and be like, that right there is you. I'm trying to be nice, y'all. But that always will play a part. Now, y'all say that's childish. It's not childish in a way. It's just like, because we don't have foresight. When we're young, most times we don't have foresight. And at the time, I'm sure that we probably thought as young people that was going to be the end relationship, and you want to go all the way. But sometimes we can't see that. And I use that example for this. This is an example of sometimes when young ladies are making decisions about certain things in their relationships, they don't see how the effect will last beyond that relationship. It could be a tattoo, it could be behavior, whatever, what you're exposed to. And I caution all the young ladies, whoever you may be, wherever you are, don't go by a man's words, go by his actions. How does he make you feel? How does he treat you? Not how much money he has. What kind of job he got. Not if he got. This is a shout out to your boy, the 666s.
Young Bishop? Yeah.
Just shout out to Bishop. It don't matter if he's 6 feet. Got six, you know what, and six figures. If he treats you like a piece of you know what, that's not the dude for you. And let me. Well, the last thing. Even a pimp. We're gonna do pimpology. You got Big Mama, I got pimpology. Pimps will tell you, hey, choose who choose you. Stop chasing people who don't want you. And I'm gonna slam my gavel right there. I'm gonna slam my gavel right there.
You know what,
Slam
Lim?
my gavel right there.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you pulling over on that 405. And I appreciate you being vulnerable with your personal tattoo story. Ashley, one of our guests on the chat, she says visitation is everything. And she said whether you are aware and whether you're taking it negative or positive. So what she's saying is at the end of the day, in the home, growing up, whether you say something, because a lot of parents say, I'm gonna just stay here till the kids get grown and they don't talk to each other, and they one sleep downstairs, one sleep upstairs, one sleep in another room, roll their eyes, and you think the kids not picking up on this. The kids see a lot of this action and they see a lot of this stuff. And so my thing is, I'm just trying to let you know that there is no, I'm gonna say this, make sure my mic working. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. I'm gonna say it for the people in the back. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. So everything that you saw your mama do, your dad do, big mama do, big daddy do, it don't mean that it's applicable to you in your life, right? And the reason I'm saying that is because we in a whole different new generation. How you raising kids now, how you treating women now. Okay, I'm gonna tell on myself. It ain't even me, it's just how I was raised. I really saw my mother and father has been married 62 years. 62 years, right? And that's a long time. But I saw a lot of deficiencies as well, right? But if you ask my dad, he's going to say Jesus was the glue that kept them together. Pops, what does that mean? That's a real cliche, right? What does that mean? But he said, in the times that I was mad at your mom, at the times that she didn't treat me how I felt like I should be treated, at the times I didn't treat her like she wanted to be treated. When I spoke out of turn, when I didn't think about the things that I said, and I said them anyway, and she stopped talking to me and shut down, God always found a way to bring us back together. So that means we wasn't just throwing in the towel over emotions, over the trauma. But with that being said, you saw some disagreements, and my dad didn't hold. I don't even know which one worse. Is it worse to stop talking to your spouse and going in another room and just shutting up for 2 weeks? Or is it worse to just go and say what you say and just say it out loud, whether it come off ignorant or disrespectful or not? Long as it wasn't no cussing or not, I said what I said. And so I don't really know which one is worse, but what I can say is my parents love each other. They've been together forever, and that is their situation, which showed me how to treat a woman, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. So it also showed me how to recognize what I don't want to be known as, right? So I need to work on my deficiencies. If you say chivalry is important, chivalry is important. If you say you like brownies instead of flowers, brownies it is. I got to be able to understand or put myself in a different position to understand who you are, right? And now that we're saying that, Romy, because Romy up next. Now that we saying that, Romy, bring us home when it comes down to trauma that you learned when you were smaller or younger, whether you had your father there or not, whether your mom left you and she abandoned you or not. How do you deal with these traumas outside of therapy? We know the traditional stuff, prayer, therapy, take some pills, Ritalin. We didn't heard all of that. Tell us, how do you deal with the real life trauma in real time? Oh, girl, you from being from the Detroit and the Midwest, she getting in your face saying, no, you going, and she taking it back to the streets. How do you restrain yourself, Romy? Give us some real life examples. We don't want to hear all that traditional stuff.
Hey, you coming in with something good, man. I'm gonna rock the boat.
Love
Just to bring up my own story. I grew up in a single parent household. My parents was never married. I remember when they actually broke up, and my mom basically, fellas, make sure you always have your own, because I seen it when my mom kicked my dad out, and he had to go and live with my grandmother. And so a grown man, that had to be humbling for him to have to go back and live with Mom Dukes at that age, and seeing that as a kid, it just showed me, never live with a woman, have your own space. And I was a little kid seeing that. So I would say, when you grow up with those type of, as Lim said earlier, dysfunctional situations, when you see that dysfunction, man, because a lot of people will think, oh well, you got to have a husband and a wife in the household and everything will be good. Well, I could tell you plenty of stories where a husband and wife was involved, and the father either working too much and the kids turned out a certain way, or the father doing his own thing. So it's just one of those things where you try to find that positive male role model in your family. And for me, I had several uncles, excuse me, several uncles that was in my life and heavily involved. And one in particular that moved to Atlanta, my Uncle James, he was basically there because he did the street life thing. So he was always telling me, like, hey, you see that friend right there? I can tell you, you're going to end up going down the wrong path if you hang with him. And I used to always be like, well, what you mean? Like, listen, I know. I done been down that road. And so I used to always take my uncle's advice. All of my uncles, I would take all of their advice because I ended up losing my dad at 10 years old. Um, my grandmother had passed away 2 years prior, and so he took to the bottle, man. So we got to talk about trauma can be people dealing with addictions, and and what I was seeing was I seen my father go from being the smartest man I knew to him picking up a bottle every single day. So depression is real. And if somebody don't know how to bounce out of that whole thing, they can turn to trying to numb the pain with the bottle, with the drugs, popping pills in the day we live in today. This generation is big on popping pills. So I would say that you see a lot of different traumas. So you try to pick up the good that you see in individuals. And I remember this one gentleman that my mom dated after my father, and I was on the path of destruction because when my dad left, I just felt like, hey, I can take over at this point. And I remember he pulled me to the side and we went for a ride. And he told me, he said, hey, man, I can show you the path you're going. This is where you will end up. And he was showing me the Wayne County Jail in Detroit. And I was like, man, like I can end up here. And he was just telling me the real. He said, but if you work on the things that you're doing. He said you're a good student, you're doing good grades. So just that conversation changed everything for me. I started making sure that I hung with the right friends. I changed the way that I was behaving in the house. And it was just that male being there, and they never married or anything, but just having that positive male influence and the words that he said that, I never got a whooping in that situation. It was just a conversation to get me on the right track. So for me, it was just always positive men really, giving me the real.
And Romy, Lim talking about some stepfathers don't matter. This the part. That's why I love the fact that you shared that story. Because
Yeah.
y'all don't bring me in yet. Don't bring me in yet. Don't bring me in yet. I just had to interrupt. So let me say this. So I'm gonna read some data for us, because just so y'all know, we got some numbers behind what we saying, and we ain't just talking just to talk. Trauma from relationships can be profound and long lasting. Here are some type of traumas. So as I name these traumas, either Low or Lim can jump in to be able to show which one that you want to talk about or which one that you can relate to. Number one is emotional abuse trauma. Constantly criticizing, gaslighting, emotional manipulation. Number two is physical abuse. We all know what that is. That's physical violence, injury, or threat. Number three is psychological abuse. And this is mind games, control, or isolation. Number four is verbal abuse. And this is name calling, belittling, or humiliation. Number five is financial abuse. And that's controlling the finances, economic manipulation. Number six, oh, y'all ain't ready for this one. Lim, y'all ain't ready for this one. Spiritual abuse. And that's manipulation over your beliefs, spiritual control. Huh? For the people in the back, let me say. Number seven is neglect trauma. And this is emotional or physical neglect. Number eight, it's only 10, so I got a few more. Number eight is intimate partner violence. And that is physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. Number nine, everybody, all the women love to use this, narcissistic abuse. And that's emotional and manipulation, gaslighting as well. And the last one is complex trauma. And that's repeated, prolonging exposure to manipulate or multiple forms of abuse. So you could use all of them into one. So come on, King Lemuel. Then we have Logo after you. Come on in
All
here.
right. All right, so I want to talk about disabuse, and it's a very important one. Withholding the hot pocket abuse, ladies. Stop withholding the hot pocket. You lift that leg up when that man come home and he tired and he need to feel good about himself. You lift that leg up. You don't withhold that pocket from that man. That's how he goes back and fight for you. You want Mufasa? Lift the leg up, ladies. Lift the leg up. I'm gonna make some t-shirts. Lift the leg up.
Hey, forgive me, honest. That boy Lim always angry. He always gonna give you one, man. So come on, Lo. Come on in here with something serious. Clean this up for him, please. He's talking about some lift the leg up. Although I understand where he's going with this, because that is a big problem in a lot of relationships. But when you talk about that trauma, is the men lifting it up and they not gentle with the women. They are being extremely controlling because they taking advantage of the situation. And these are a lot of things that go from one relationship to the next. So we could talk about that in all fun and games, and it's serious too, about the women not satisfying their spouse sexually, because we all grown. That's one subject. But on the flip side, especially from this letter, she was saying my man was actually too rough and doing all this stuff he was seeing on the movies and thinking he was trying to be in the movies, and she thought this was how it's supposed to be. And then she woke up like, hold on, like you gonna leave me like this, and I'm confused, and is it me? And a lot of the guilt and shame Ron was talking about. So come on in here, Lo, and clean it up for us, please.
Well, I don't know if I can clean that one up because that's coming from a man who said food and sex, that's all they need. And not everybody's a big mama in the kitchen. So, to quote unquote. But you know what? I have to agree somewhat with Lim. I would have said it a little not so uncouth, but he's right. Women will use that as a barter, sex, and that shouldn't be the case. So, I do agree with Lim with that. You shouldn't be like that. But one of the things when you're reading off those 10 abuses, usually it's several types of abuse. It can be verbal, physical, gaslighting, narcissism. It's a lot of different types of abuse that usually happen at one time. And it made me kind of think of two things. One, Maya Angelou says that if people tell you who they are, believe them. And I feel a lot of times these women or these men see the signs way before they come completely committed in a relationship or marriage, but they choose to ignore the signs. Another thing, I feel women are really blessed with women's intuition, and we know it's not right, but then we make excuses for it, right? So I feel like if women rely on their women intuition, because we really have that internally where we're like, you know what, that's just not right. And what happens a lot of time is one of the things that I know the gentlemen are familiar with, that term love bombing. So in the beginning, they're this perfect man. They do everything right. They shower you with flowers. They tell you everything you want to hear. And then once they see you're in love, then it flips the script. And now they do you any kind of way because they know you're wrapped around their finger. And then you keep remembering the good times and don't want to leave. Because our young lady who gave the letter talked about all this different types of abuse, from physical to verbal to psychological, a lot of abuse. But it was interesting. She said, and he would, break up to make up, break up to make up. And the last straw, finally, when he decided to leave, not her decide to leave, he did. Okay, then I'm done. So that's the thing. It's like, it's so sad that it comes to the point, like I said again, that we don't care about ourselves enough to say, I'm ending this. And then when you leave, one of the things that worked for me is like, I don't let my mind dwell on the good. I dwell on the reason why I left you. One. So when those thoughts come up, oh, he was so nice. He brought flowers. He treated. I started thinking, but you left because he did this. He did that. He did that. That's going to help you. And to me, another thing that's going to help too is, besides that, when you decide to leave, don't wait till you're mad. Oh, we're fighting. We're arguing. Screw you. Get out. I'm gone. Or you leave. No. When you can make a sound decision and weigh it out and say, this relationship isn't healthy for me, so I'm going to leave, that's when it's usually more permanent. And that's when you're not being ruled by your emotions. So that's some of the things that to me are important for women. Again, back to the letter, she waited till he left her. I would love to see that she decided enough was enough. I'm sorry, Los.
No, you don't have to apologize, because I'm coming in swinging. Okay, so you came in from a woman's perspective, but I want you to put on some of these Jordan for a minute, right? Just understand a man's point of view. It's really good to see and side with the woman, the victim, and all of that. But just let's rewind this real quick, right? What about the man that has to build up enough courage to approach somebody like you, right? Hey, baby girl, I'm not handsome enough. I don't make enough money. I'm not tall enough. I'm not your type. So imagine all the rejection we have to deal with to get to somebody like you. Then when we finally get you, a man gotta work extra hard. See, if we and I'm not turning this man against woman. I love it, Lim. Here I go. But I'm not turning it man against woman. But I want you to be able to understand how much a man really has to do if he really wants to court a woman. It's a lot. Like, and then you got people like me. You got people like Roman Lim that has different personalities. Some might be kind of afraid to approach a woman. Some might, be better with, could you tell your homegirl I like her? Or could you write a letter? Like, they thrived and stuff like that at elementary. Then it steps up a little bit more in our day about approaching a woman. We was taught that back in our era. But now it's more so the DMs and having the Twitter fingers and the online dating, and I'm on my phone while we supposed to be eating and I'm engaging you. I don't care about really opening up the door for you because that's not a necessity. Like, I hear you, but I'm just telling you the era we live in and how much a man has to fight to be able to maintain control, to get you to know that yes, control is, if we really talking about, I mean, let's face it, we can even talk about somebody like you. You have a lot of men that's maybe in your DMs, right? Or maybe approach you week to week, day to day. Now, ask my brother Lim, ask my boy Jerome, and ask me how many women come up and say, "Oh my God, you handsome. I would love to take you on a date." He got to say, "Ooh, baby, I'm married," or "Ooh, I'm not interested." It don't happen as much as it happened in my life. Bring King Lemmy on in here.
Yeah, King will probably tell you they hitting on him all day. Remember that German woman he talked about? The black man is a business commodity. Let them.
There you go. Yeah. Y'all ready? Yeah, y'all ready? Okay, here we go. So now, before I get to that, I do want to talk about something that is serious. So something that is serious that happens in relationships is stonewalling. We've got to be careful with that, ladies and gentlemen. That's when you shut your partner off and you shut them out and you stop talking. So Los had a question. What's worse, stonewalling or communicating how you really feel? It's always worse when you stop communicating. The number one relationship killer to me is lack of communication. That'll kill a relationship quickly. So you always, even when you're not in agreement, you need to keep communicating, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever your feelings are, it's very important. Stonewalling, no good. Okay. Now back to what you were saying. So here's the deal, Los, with this one.
Bring it on
I
in,
want
King.
I want to conduct an experiment for women to see. This is something for women. I will place a man on one side of a sidewalk. I'll place a woman on the other side of the sidewalk. They're average looking, whatever that means, average looking. These are not beauty queens of people. And I will give them the same line to say to strangers walking up and down the street. Here's the line. I want to get your number because I want to have sex with you. Watch it. Now watch, follow me. I know, follow me, follow me. The woman is going to say this to strangers. The man is going to say this to strangers. Now watch the difference in the reactions, you guys. The woman probably has men following her down the street like, let's do this right now. Not now, right now. The man been slapped 5 times by 5 different women. Someone threatened to call the police on him. They've called him a pervert, you're weird, you're fool, right? Look, why is she getting a response of hell yeah, and he's getting a response of being a creep? Here's why. A crackhead can get sex when she can't get high, ladies and gentlemen. For the listening audience, stay out of here. Watch this. A woman at her lowest form of human stature can get sex when a man can't, because women are the gatekeepers of sex. Men are the gatekeepers of marriage and relationships. So she has exponential choices. If I'll even go here with you. This is going to really get you low. Watch this low. This is going to really get you. If a woman decided today to dedicate the rest of her life to sleeping with a different man every day, she could. She shouldn't, but she could. A man has to show productivity to get access to her. A woman doesn't have to be productive. A man will take a woman out of her mama's house, don't have a job, ain't worked in 5 years, staying at home smoking weed, and she's still more of a better of a person that a man would take and say, I take care of you. Oprah Winfrey, our women being the most successful
Don't
women in
do
the
it.
world
Don't do it, Lil.
have no desire to take care of a grown man.
Okay.
They feel disrespected by the thought. They feel like that is ridiculous. Whereas we men, we gladly accept responsibility for taking care of women. So even with the equality, the feminism that we have today, women making more money, being in positions of authority, more women being in colleges, there's still not an equal ground when it comes to how she wants to spend her money and how men want to spend theirs. I said a lot to say a lot, but you get my point. There's not equal there. So there is a form of what Los was saying. We risk a lot to try to bring a woman into our fold. I don't call that trauma. I don't call that whatever. I just call it life. It is what it is. And there is still a unique difference between women and men in that respect when it comes to sexual access, when it comes to how men still will take care of a woman. If they got it, they will. If they don't, they can't. And how women who have money, this is the last one, y'all gonna love this one. Women who are on their point on their money, their game, educated, still make fun of men that don't have their stuff together. Whereas the man, when he's on point with his finances, he don't make fun of y'all. He rescues you. Woo! Come
Hold on.
on, Holy Ghost.
No,
Come
no.
on, baby.
Yes,
Hold on, wait. I'm gonna let you come in, Lo. I'm gonna let you come in, right? I'm
Come
gonna let
on in.
go ahead, Lo. Because
The water's warm.
I want to read, and I want to read these effects of relationship traumas, but I'm gonna let you respond. But the only thing I'm telling them is the only reason I deviated from that, showing you how hard it is for a man, is because this can bring up trauma. That all this rejection can bring trauma. It could. And so go ahead, Lo. I'm gonna let you respond because he did say a lot. So go on
Well, I
through.
appreciate it, and I'll keep it sweet and low. So, one thing I would say, I hear his point, but we're talking about relationships, not just sex. If we were looking for just sex, yeah, put somebody on the right, left, whatever, whatever, right? But we're talking about relationships for one. And for two, the other thing I wanted to comment on, I appreciate a man's point of view. And if you feel that that's how women feel, the majority, I can understand you saying that. But yet, I also would argue the point that there are plenty of women taking care of men where they are called house pimps, where they're pimping the woman to have a house to live in, to have food on the table, to have sex when they want it. So many men are boys that are living with moms, not their mothers that are their girlfriends, and not holding it down. A lot. I would love, because you're the stat man, I would love to give you this, you to give me the statistics on how many men live with women than women live with men and get and reap the benefits. Because I tell you, not every woman, not every man is noble to say, hey, I'm going to provide this, this, and this, and I don't want a lot in return. No, they also want things in return, whether they're giving you the lifestyle and you're marrying for lifestyle, not for connection, like I've mentioned before. There are women who are willing to do that. So that's, I don't want to belabor what he's saying and take it too far, but that's the thing I'll say. It goes both ways. It does. Just like he says about women, there are plenty men out there willing to pimp a woman for her house, the food, and everything else.
I really, really appreciate it. See, Lo,
Oh,
this
I got one thing. One thing. Lim, and I'll land my plane right there. Thank you.
hey, Lo, this is why we need you around. Because at the end of the day, you see Ashley got the popcorn emojis. We out here having fun, man. Bring Rome on in here. So
Yeah, we need some balance. Bring some rum and rum.
hey, Rome, I'm gonna do these last 10 steps of effects of relationship trauma.
Okay, go ahead.
Number one is anxiety. Number two is depression. Number three, Lim likes this, is the PTSD. Number four is low self-esteem. Number five is trust issues. Number six is difficulty setting boundaries. Number seven, self-blame. Number eight, emotional regulation challenges. Number nine is physical symptoms, chronic pain. And number 10 is difficulty forming healthy relationships. So I just want y'all to know this ain't just us pump faking or just talking crazy. We got real life statistics and we trying to get better as human beings, right? So in the sake of Big Mama And in the sake of closing, right, I want to hear some closing remarks from King Lemuel based on emotional relationship trauma. Go ahead, Lem. Take us away. Closing remarks.
And before I do that, I will give her her percentage. She wants her percentage. I'll give it to 16% of women are financially the bread earners in the home. And that's up from 1972 when it was 5%. So y'all got 16% of y'all are out there bringing home the bacon and taking care of men. I'll land my plane on that.
Again,
Now
that
let's talk
might
about,
be financially, like you're showing the stats on the ones that are making more money and taking care of them, not the ones that let them live with them and they're living off of Medicare, Medi-Cal, I mean, whatever it is. But they have their men in there. So we'll talk offline.
we'll go there, we'll get off, we'll
You
talk about
have to
that.
do
But
more
back, so back
research
to,
on things.
yeah, back to the closing argument. So for
Okay.
this particular thing, there's closing statements. Closing statements. I know I'm not in court. Closing statements. All right. So to close the statement, I want to summarize back to what I was saying. Always, always, always find an effective way to communicate. Stonewalling, not talking, shutting down. It doesn't work. That's very important. And then the other thing I would say this before we enter into our relationships, ladies and gentlemen, find out what our own emotional triggers are, find out what our own traumas are that go back before we've met the person that we're in a relationship with. A lot of times we're bringing something into something and then we can't, it gets convoluted as to what is your baggage versus what is my baggage. Know what your own baggage is, identify it. Do the work, the counseling, whatever you need. Ideally, ladies and gentlemen, we would do the work before we meet someone. It's much harder, much challenging to meet people and then try to work on ourselves while pleasing them while they're trying to work on themselves. Can you do it? Yes. Is it easier? Probably do it alone? Probably. If we take that time while we're single, that's actually what we're supposed to be doing. So I just want to say that I didn't get a chance to talk about something that I did want to talk about. There's a wonderful book. I'll give a shout out to Dr. Joy DeGrow, a wonderful psychologist on trauma bonding. She wrote a wonderful book called Post Traumatic Slavery Syndrome. She talks specifically about how Black people are triggered in their relationships as to how we and why we have dysfunctional relationships with each other and how these things are exacerbated in our relationships. Well, I didn't get a chance to talk about that. I know we don't have enough time, but that's a wonderful book. Do some reading, check it out. But find out what your own emotional baggage and triggers are. That way you won't be mixing and mingling baggage with somebody else, accusing someone else of doing something or bringing something to you that maybe you brought to the relationship. I'll land my plane there. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, man, for sharing that. And what we'll do is we will put the name and the title of that book on our page. So please make sure you follow us on IG and make sure you continue to follow us on YouTube. We'll share that with you later. Come on in here, Romy, with your closing remarks.
Hey, this thing is good. Hey, Liv, this is why I love Lim and Sweet and Low because the gloves come off every time. I'm loving this right here. And I know the people love it, but they had some great points on both sides. In closing, I'll say this because there may be a young lady or young man dealing with this right this moment. There are 6 signs or behaviors of emotional abuse, and Ashley touched on this earlier. She talked about the jealousy that people overlook and people trying to isolate you with their friends. Well, that's 2 of them here. It says accusations of cheating or other signs of jealousy and possessiveness, constant checking on or attempting to control the other person's behavior, constantly arguing or opposing situations, criticizing them, gaslighting them, and isolating the individual from their family and their friends. So this is definitely real big because once somebody isolates you, they start to control your mind. The mind is a powerful thing because if a dude can get your mind, for the young ladies out there, if a guy can get your mind, he can have your body. You see what I'm saying? Because he got you up here. So he's telling you nobody else wants you. Nobody else is going to deal with you. You're not smart. You're not this. So he's beating you down emotionally every single day, every chance he gets. And so the isolation part, it'll just put you in a state of depression It'll put you in a state of anxiety. It'll put you in a place where you just feel like there's no hope for you. So the key thing there is isolating and trying to control, you away from your friends and things like that. So I would just say pay attention to those signs and what Lim touched on earlier about knowing thyself. Sometimes you know that you flawed, but you want a relationship. Sometimes you gotta get healed because although you may not see blood, you're bleeding internally. And so you going from one situation to the next, to the next, to the next. All you're doing is bringing on more hurt and more pain to yourself because that individual over there could be a very nice young man or a nice young lady, and you just bringing that person down. And a wise person will leave as soon as they notice things that's not right. Those red flags, as I call them. So you got to know yourself, and Low touched on it earlier about that the woman's intuition. I'll take it a little bit deeper. For those who are spiritual, use your spiritual discernment because sometimes your spiritual discernment will let you know this individual is not who they say they are. They are a wolf in sheep's clothing. My brother Los is going to talk about the Big Mama isms. Big Mama used to tell you, be careful the company you keep. And if you're around this individual because of look good, car look good, he got money, she got this bad body and all this, that bad body, I have you all the way messed up in a different way. So I'm gonna just end with that as they would say. I'm gonna land that plane right there.
Oh Lord, I want the plane to keep going. All right, okay. So we'll just listen. Let me say this real quick. Don't y'all miss Lo. We miss Lo, man, and we really, really appreciate her ingratiating the crew with her presence. She bring a different type of energy, and we would be remiss if we didn't say how much we appreciate her just joining in for this time. And hopefully, in the future, she'll come on as a special guest. Bring up Lo with her closing remarks. Come on, Lo, what you got for us?
Thank you. And I love y'all so much. I really do. One of the things I want to do, I'm going to look in the camera, hopefully. You can recover, you can get whole, and you can become you, who you were before the damage of that other person. So, one of the things I want to say is trauma is personal and it's unique to each individual. So, self recovery is going to be individualized. Self healing is individualized. So I would say seek out, like they said, whether it's a therapist, whether, like Lim said, a good book, whether it's your family, your clergy, whatever it is. One of the books that I really healed with was Love After Heartbreak by Stefan Labossiere. That's a really, really good book as far as journaling, writing letters about you hurt me because you did this, 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 whether you mail it or whether you burn it. There are different things you can do to heal, but I want you to know you can heal. Just like you were fine before you met that person, you're going to be fine after they're gone. So I'm praying for you, and I know you can do it. That's it.
I really appreciate it, Lo. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, it's time for the Big Mama isms, right? And so I want to pull up this right quick before I end, right? There's a book. Everybody talking about their book. I want to show you, I want to share with mine then. My dad, shout out to my dad. He showed me and told me about this book. It's called Freedom of Guilt and Shame by Timothy S. Lane. Really, really good book. So my thing is, as you go through a lot of guilt and as you go through a lot of insecurities, just understand that you don't have to stay stuck in your guilt or shame because you got a God here that's able to forgive you through it all. And that is what we're talking about. So in the great words of my big mama, Rome said one, I'm gonna say two. Fortunately, I had an opportunity to be in Chicago this week, and I was playing bid whiz with my aunts, man, and my aunt Beulah, and I talked to my aunt Frances. Shout out to my aunties, I love y'all so much. And so I got two big mama-isms. The first one is don't put the cart before the horse. That's number one. And the other one is don't count your chickens before they hatch. And so we all heard these before, but what does that really mean? Baby girl in this letter put her cart before the horse, and she also counted her chickens before they hatched because she thought she was about to be this wife. And you went through all this trauma thinking that this was going to be your husband, but God had a different plan, right? The Bible say, I'm gonna just quote a scripture real quick, but the Bible says, seek thee first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these other things will be added unto you. So if she was seeking God first, I'm sure he would have pushed her in the right direction where she needed to go. So I want to let her know that we praying for her, and the young man is trying to win her back. He might as well look other places, seem like she done. But at the same time, we got to be able to understand that all relationships, and we consider ourselves a relationship show. So if y'all keep the letters coming. The Shield ready to talk about the letters. Keep the letters coming. And we're going to be able to read them out loud. If you want us to say your name, we will. We got some merch coming. We got a new logo that we got created. We all gonna be wearing the same shirts pretty soon. The same thing Lo do for the people, you're gonna be able to do for us. And so we're gonna be able to wear this merch together in perfect harmony. So we want y'all to do us a favor. Love, like the page, subscribe, and be able to make sure you keep writing in. Lim changing his ways for you. See my man pulled over. He got on the white t-shirt. He ready. You got Low came back to visit. Because people, if y'all want it, we here. We love you, Ashley. Thank you for the comments. We was reading them all. And we want y'all to keep coming on. And we want to thank everybody behind the scenes. Kim, Suge, Maureen, everybody that contribute to Shield. We want to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our heart, and continue to follow us. We love you.